Jonathan Turley, you might agree with that too, but I won't ask you to comment on that. You're a Fox News contributor. You've been watching, maybe you've been watching us, and I don't know what you think about our legal analysis, but let's hear yours.
Well, we're waiting to see what new evidence they might have. I mean, one of the more intriguing things is the suggestion that they have a witness tampering claim that may produce some new evidence we haven't seen. But, you know, Jack Smith has a reputation for stretching criminal statutes beyond the breaking point. You know, he went after the Virginia governor, secured a conviction there. He was unanimously overturned because he just stretched the law too far.
Jonathan, can I just interrupt you for 1 second and just let you know that President Trump's campaign has put out a statement saying that he has been indicted. And I know that the as David Spunt just reported, the grand jury apparently is sealed, but they're saying that shortly after 5 p.m., the magistrate judge in D.C. accepted 3 new indictments. The initials of the first 2 were read aloud, but not the third. That's the latest that we have here. So let me let you continue, but I wanted to just get that out there so that we have the news on the record.
Right, and as we expected, this is the other shoe dropping. But, you know, there's a suggestion that Jack Smith might be using the Civil Rights Act and Section 241. That would be a stretch. It has been used in some election cases of interfering with the right to vote. But this goes to the concern many of us have. You know, if you're going to go after a president or former president, you should do it on well-established grounds. You should do it with overwhelming evidence. You know, we can all debate the documents case, but that indictment is a fairly conventional indictment. It has, President Trump has denied the allegations. He'll have his day in court. This one, it could be more problematic on a legal basis. I mean, this is where Jack Smith may be yielding to his weakness. He may be stretching the law a bit. So that's why we're going to be looking at things like witness tampering to see how much new evidence he has. You'll notice that not being discussed in all of this is a conspiracy for incitement. Not being discussed is a seditious conspiracy. Those were the claims that went into the second Trump impeachment. Those were the claims that Democrats said were lead pipe cinches, where the evidence was absolutely clear. They do not appear thus far to be in this indictment, but we'll have to see. The letter that was issued to Trump did not include those specific allegations.
All right, Jesse Waters.
Professor Turley, what's the charge everybody keeps talking about on the left, that if Trump is convicted of, it disqualifies him from ever holding public office ever again? Is that part of this?
No, I got to tell you, I
Guys,
think that the whole 14th Amendment...
I'm sorry. We do have it's official now. The indictment has come down. President Trump has been indicted. A Fox News alert for you there. The indictment has happened, and I think that you were in the middle of a very good point answering the question from Jesse Waters about the Democrats think that there's something in here that says President Trump can actually serve as president again if he were to win the election of 2024. Back to you, Jonathan Turley.
Well, you know, the Democrats have been playing with this for years with the 14th Amendment and the claims of disqualification. It's sort of a story you tell your kids at night if you're a Democratic household, so they sleep restfully. But I got to tell you, I'm highly skeptical. I don't think that a conviction would prevent Donald Trump from running. And by the way, if he's elected, it wouldn't prevent him from pardoning himself. It wouldn't prevent other Republicans elected from pardoning him. And if this doesn't go to trial, Jack Smith might never see a jury because you can do a preemptive pardon. So there's a lot of runway.
Jonathan Turley, I'm going to interrupt you again,
there.
which is very rude, and I'm going to owe you a drink. We want to get to David Spunt. He actually has the indictment. He can read it to us, tell us what are the charges, or David Spunt, there you go. Over to you.
We got the printer going behind me. 45 pages. Here it is right here. Donald Trump has been indicted. There are 4 different counts. I want to read them to you before I read through this. Count 1 is conspiracy to defraud the United States. Count 2, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 3, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. And then count 4 is called conspiracy against rights. So I'm going to go through this and look at it right now. We just sent it out, so everybody should have a copy in our email. But right now it appears 4 different counts. This was the indictment that was not read in court, now is unsealed. and we're waiting to see if we get any type of reaction from special counsel Jack Smith. We'll be watching for. Dana?
Do you know, but earlier you said that the indictments didn't have some initials or some people were named. What happened to that? Is now everybody named?
Not everybody was named. Apparently, we're told from our producer in the courtroom, there were 2 cases where initials were read. We're deciphering who those initials may be. We're waiting to see if we find those. But this specific case right here, there was no DT read or DJT or Donald Trump announced in the courtroom. And this just says United States of America v. Donald J. Trump defendant. So it does not have other defendants listed in this indictment. We were wondering if perhaps it might be Donald Trump and XYZ, as we saw with the retention of documents case, where his aide and body man, Walt Nauta, was also indicted. This right here is just United States of America versus Donald Trump. It's 4 counts. Again, count 1, conspiracy to defraud the United States. Count 2, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 3 is obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 4 is conspiracy against rights. It is 45 pages. And on the back, it has Jack Smith's signature right here.
Okay.
And it just says right here, it says Donald J. Trump, this is on the final page, did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators known and unknown to the grand jury to injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate one or more persons in the free exercise and enjoyment of a right and privilege secured to them by the Constitution and laws of the United States. That is the right to vote and to have one's vote counted in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 241. Dana.
Thank you. Let's take it around the table for some reaction to this. Now we have the news, Katie. It is official. Your thoughts?
David brought up the point that it's only President Trump who's been indicted in this round. There could be other people who end up getting indictments, just like we saw last week with them bringing additional charges in the classified documents case. I wanted to ask Jonathan Turley the question about just the volume of legal work that has to be done here. There's the reports that came out this week of President Trump spending a lot of the campaign money that's been given to him by donors on his legal defense. When you have 40 plus counts in the classified document case, 4 counts here, the other indictments that are coming, I'm interested in just the sheer volume of what that actually looks like for attorneys getting ready for these indictments and the trials next year, and the amount of resources that's going to take, not just from them, but from the candidate himself when he's trying to be on the trail against, again, President Joe Biden, whose DOJ continues to bring these charges.
Jesse, your eyes are squinting there at a very tiny print.
So silly. They lead off with saying the president lied about election fraud and knew there was no fraud. How do they know that he knew that there was no fraud? And if this goes to trial, are we going to now have to go back and find fraud in the 2020 election? Is this now what we're going to go relitigate? Does this open up the entire 2020 election in a court setting to Donald Trump going back and proving that there was indeed fraud and presenting evidence of fraud and having that challenged in the court? Is this really what we're going to do? And now they're saying that it was a conspiracy to fraudulently claim there was no fraud. This is the first page. I'll let you know when I get to the second page.
If you would keep reading there,
all right.
And there's another little bit of news I can give to you. So apparently President Trump will appear in a federal court on August 3rd. I believe that's Friday. Friday, August 3rd, President Trump to appear in federal court on this latest indictment. Greg Gutfeld, do you have any thoughts as we go around the Thursday?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of my sketches? When I'm bored, I will draw men in hats. I'm sure there's a psychiatrist out there that can tell me what's wrong with me. I kind of, I look at this stuff and I honestly, I just see, again, it's lawfare. That's all this is. We're not supposed to understand this. This is supposed to be out of our hands, out of our control. Donald Trump is probably one of the most consequential leaders of our lifetime. He was outside the box. He didn't play well with others being insiders. This is the payback. He's not one of the kids he's not one of them. He's the outsider. So this is just payback, and it's going to elevate him even more. And it's just not as fun as the other topics we were going to do.
No, the other topics were great.
There was a bear in China, Dana.
In a man suit.
In a man suit.
With a little butt. Okay. Jessica, one thing that we had talked about earlier, and then we can circle back around now, is that whether these are on the merits, okay? So let's see, the indictments come out. The indictments, just politically, it's a fact that those indictments so far have not hurt President Trump politically. In fact, it made him stronger. You call them the spinach.
Yes.
And I've said they're like the Pac-Man ghosts. You know, that every time you eat a ghost, you get a little bit stronger. And you
That's
get a
more
little bit
updated
more time.
than my stupid one.
But I mean, everybody knows Popeye and spinach. And so I wonder if the Democrats think about what could happen if reaction in the country is either to shrug their shoulders or to think even worse that maybe that there are these two systems of justice and why isn't this being applied to the Biden administration. I'm not trying to equate January 6th and Hunter Biden. I'm just saying that it hasn't helped Democrats politically so far. Do you think that is going to change? Are Democrats banking on that?
No, Democrats, like they did in the 2022 midterms, are running on issues. They are talking, you can laugh all you want about trying to convince people about Biden economics or Bidenomics. Sorry, I messed it up. But that doesn't mean that it isn't what they're talking about. I have not seen one Democrat speech that's leading with, you know, hey, this guy, you think he's going to look good in an orange jumpsuit? They're talking about whatever's going on in their district. They're talking about issues like the Dobbs decision, which was a complete lightning rod in the midterms and will continue to be. So Democrats are doing exactly what they should be doing, which is continuing to govern and continuing to talk about the issues that matter to Americans. And I think, and this has been true almost since, you know, Trump came down the golden escalator, the people's views are very solidly baked in. The people who think that the Biden family is corrupt and that they're the worst people on the planet and really cared about, you know, denying the seventh grandchild. That was one of our topics. We're going to talk about that. That's done and dusted. And the people on the other side who said, I can absolutely never support Donald Trump, also done. So it's just those few people, which is why the margins in these elections are so slim, are who the persuadables are. And what doesn't work in the Republicans' favor with all of this is that those people tend to think that Donald Trump is guilty of these things, and they voted him out in the last election in 2020. I will add, he's getting stronger as a candidate in the polls, but he is not financially. Politico has a big piece out today that as the indictments continue to roll in, he is able to fundraise less. And to Katie's point, he spent $40 million on his own defense, which frankly sounds like a bit of
might
fraud.
Be considered political warfare, right?
Yeah.
In a way.
That's what they're trying to
But they're
do.
real charges, and these are grand juries.
I'm just saying that might be a way. I was also just thinking, Katie, that with these indictments, if you're the Trump team or President Trump himself, given that these indictments are coming out, and he'll be in court on Thursday, August 3rd. I had the date right, but the day wrong. So Thursday, August 3rd. To me, if I were him, I would definitely want to be on the debate stage on August 23rd, because then he could be in a position to look at all of the people around him, including Chris Christie, a big critic of his, and say, who here thinks that this indictment of me was fair?
Right.
And see what happens, and be able to put them all on record and try to seal up the commanding lead that he already has. That's just something that came to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, certain candidates like Nikki Haley have come out and said this is a distraction. We don't want to be talking about this with the nominee next year. But the truth is, Republicans are in the place where they're trying to defeat Trump, but they really can't go after him on this issue because DOJ has been so corrupt, and there's so much information about how the FBI was behaving during the 2016 election and during President Trump's first term, that you end up defending the institutions that quite, you know, a lot of the time are going after Republican political candidates. When your question about, or your statement about the money being, you know, going away and that being political warfare as well, it is. I mean, this is a way for them to bleed Donald Trump dry when it comes to campaign fundraising. And that's exactly what they're doing with all of these indictments. And so it would be great for him to show up and ask.
It's also hurting state Republican parties. The swing state Republican parties have the worst financial records, and they're the ones that are supposed to pay for get out the vote ballot, I'm going to say harvesting, but figuring out a way to get those ballots mailed in and everything. Okay, Jonathan Turley, you have stuck around, and Katie had a question that she wanted to pose to you earlier, and it had to do with just the amount of legal work that is going to be required here.
Well, for these lawyers, it probably feels like death by 1,000 paper cuts. He's looking at now his third indictment. He's expecting a fourth indictment. You know, this is not like frequent flyer miles where the fourth one's free. You know, these lawyers have to work on each of these cases. They've got to line up witnesses. They have to have access to their clients to deal with specific representations to be made. At some point, the judges are going to have to acknowledge that you can't just, destroy a defendant by exposure. You have to give the defendant a chance to focus at least on one case. Someone's got to go first. On top of that, they gave him a May date for the first federal indictment, but then they hit him with a superseding indictment with new counts and a new defendant. That's going to have to weigh on the court as to whether it's fair now to stick with the original date, given that change and this additional indictment and one coming.
Wait, so I just in my ear they just told me that there are 6 unnamed co-conspirators. So we don't know who those people are yet, but will we? And what are they going? Does this mean they're indicted as well?
Yeah, I've been reading through this indictment. They don't name some of these individuals, but we can guess who they are. I have to tell you, I am really quite astonished by much of this indictment so far. It regurgitates a lot of the allegations against Trump, and there is room for criticism in terms of the claims being made about stolen elections. But it's criminalizing all of that. It states in the indictment the president spent months spreading false rumors and allegations of election irregularities. Really, is that a criminal issue? I mean, is that the basis of this conspiracy? It seems to me rather loose at the joints. And, I'm a bit surprised. I haven't seen anything in the indictment so far which is new. We heard about witness tampering and things of that kind. This is largely going through the states, Arizona, Georgia, restating what has been in the press. It even includes reference to that phone call where the president says, all you have to do is find 11,000 votes. For those of us who have looked at that phone call, that doesn't seem to be a criminal matter. If you look at it fairly, the president seems to be saying, all I need is 11,000 votes. So when we're looking at a recount, we're not talking about a huge threshold for us to show that the election should have come out differently. Yet Smith throws that in. And so I think that, as I said before the indictment came down, the concern was this would play to Smith's weakness. That he tends to stretch evidence, stretch the law when he wants to go after someone. I'm still looking in this indictment for something that is really a sort of aha moment.
I'm going to get to Jesse in just one second, but let me just press you a little bit. So you said that we could guess who the co-conspirators are. Do you want? I'm actually not sure. Do you want to speculate, or do you want to just wait?
Well, he refers to attorneys that he enlisted. That would probably be John Eastman, Giuliani. Those types of people are likely to be the reference points here.
Got it. Jesse.
Well, the indictment reads like a transcript of an MSNBC show. First point, they said the defendant impaired the federal government from functioning. Isn't that literally the Republican Party platform to reduce the ability of the federal government from functioning? And then they say it's a crime to ask Pence not to certify? I wonder if Pence would agree that that was a crime. Apparently, the campaign managers told the defendant, Donald Trump, he had a 5 to 10% chance of winning these challenges, but he still fought on, the indictment said. How dare he? With 5 to 10% chance, I wonder what the guys in Vegas would say. You now have suspicious activity in Philadelphia, Detroit, and Arizona and Nevada. They're going to have to litigate suspicious election activity in all of those states. They're going to be presenting evidence. The defense is going to be presenting evidence. And then the prosecution is going to have to knock that down. We're going to relitigate all of these deep blue Democrat districts over the entire country in court in 2024 in an election year. Do you think that's healthy for the country, Jonathan Turley? And do you think that's a road the Democrats want to go down to defend the integrity of Philadelphia's election security? And then they're saying Trump said the voting machines weren't secure. Again, we're going back to voting machines at trial in court in an election year. We're going to bring in voting machine executives who explain everything's fine, and then they're up on cross-examination. We're going to go through that again, Jonathan Turley. And then lastly, they're saying lying about an election is illegal Well, then Hillary, lock her up.
John Kerry, too. All right. Good point.
Well,
but Jonathan Turley,
yes.
you should respond, not me.
Well, this is what I was addressing before the indictment came down. I was hoping that if there were an indictment, then you would have this moment where you say, okay, I get it. This could be debated, but you've got something new here. I haven't seen anything particularly new. And, the indictment goes through and says, look, all these people told him that he lost the election. All these people said that Pence couldn't do that. I was one of the people writing at that time saying I thought that the president was wrong about Vice President Pence. But he was also hearing from attorneys that said that we can win, that Pence can do this. And so you're going to be criminalizing a difference of opinion. Now, it's true that most attorneys did not support that view. But once again, it goes to what do you need to bring an indictment against president or former president? What does the public expect? For a lot of people in the public, this is going to look like, the indictments will continue till the polls change. And that's not what you want, right?
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.